The silent teaching, the silent transmission is much deeper than the speech. The habitual tendencies of the mind, the vasanas, depending on the strength of these, it affects our ability to engage with the silent teaching. And the vasanas are like the weather, or the breeze, or the wind, or the waves. They can sometimes be more turbulent and sometimes be more restful. Sometimes the mind is so restless, it doesn't allow us to be silent and engage with the silent teaching. Other times, the mind is more restful. And when we have these other times, when the mind is more restful, then we should seize that time, use it if we're able to be still and to dive deep within. So the stillness is not just a superficial stillness, but a transcendent stillness where we go into ourselves. Not just a superficial stillness on the level of sensory experience, but something that is deeper, cannot be put into words, where we probe into, we penetrate into the self. I am. What you are. What I am. What I am is light. I am light. This means you are light. What I am love. I'm only love and light. Consciousness. You are that. Body, mind, world are fictions. I'm only love and light. You see the names and forms, the objects, the appearances, you suffer. You come back to what you are, love, light. Be that. Discover that. Discover the reality. This can only be done in silence. I am light. I am love. Be light. Be love. Fill yourself with light. Fill yourself with love. Fill yourself with consciousness. Love lights consciousness. This is what you are. Let go of the objective appearance, phenomenal appearance. All appearances are just made of this love light. But only when we let go of the appearance do we discover our true nature. Because self-inquiry cannot be described in words fully. If we understand the verbal teachings, if you have engaged with the verbal teachings, if your mind understands the conceptual teachings, in silence you will receive a deeper instruction. You'll receive the true or the truer instruction on how to do self-inquiry in silence. It will be transmitted from heart to heart, from self to self. Even if you haven't heard the verbal teachings, this transmission is possible, is always happening. But because of the nature of the ego mind, typically, because the mind is in control, apparently, the verbal teachings allow you to access it. Many people don't know how to do self-inquiry. How do I do self-inquiry? How do I do self-inquiry? This is the value of Satsang, is you receive the silent teaching. In the same way, the verbal teaching is helpful. An external teacher is helpful. But these are just ultimately also outside of yourself. But they can be very helpful. You are the teaching. You are the teaching. You are the teacher. You are the taught. You are the seeker. You are the teacher. You are the teaching. This is the transmission from heart to heart, from the direct path, direct teaching. It is not on the level of the mind, just to warn you. The mind here means the name, the form, the appearances. The dualistic consciousness that conceives of itself as an I, small separate self that is aware of other things, I that is aware of another. All this must go. All questions are of the mind. All questions must go. As we submit ourselves, surrender to Bhagwan, to ourself, and come home to what we are. Release all questions and let them go. Yeah, that's just fuel for the mind. Come back to yourself, the pure light, love, consciousness, beingness. The thinking mind wants to rise up. And it convinces you, perhaps it convinces you this is the way of progress, spiritual progress. When it is actually the way of delusion, illusion, ignorance. It's the erroneous, meaning based on error. It's the erroneous way. The indirect path that never leaves home, as opposed to a direct path which only leads home. If the mind is very restless, then we have to discharge the energy of the mind. We can chant, and you can do that in the call. If you find that you can't be still in the call because your mind is too agitated, you have the mutes on. You're muted on this call. You can start chanting. If I see your mouth moving, if I see you chanting, very happy to see that. discharges the mental energy, the excessive energy. Sort your diet out. And we can discharge energy through chanting. And we can not add fuel to the mind by making sure our diet is okay. We're not consuming too many calories. Just putting too much fuel on the fire of the mind. Sugary foods, things like this. It's like scattering flammable material onto the fire of the mind. Flames of thought leap high. If you have so much energy in your body, in your mind, that you can't stay still, you can do some physical exercise. Yes, do some jumping jacks. Do some hatha yoga. Go for a little walk. Do some squats. I'm not talking about with the barbell. I'm just saying, whatever you need to do. Of course, you have to know your own bodies and what you're able to do, what you're not able to do. I don't want to stray into dietary and physical health advice here. But these are things you can do to discharge the excessive energy if that's happening. The point of the teaching is to be still. The point of questions, not always, but often or sometimes the point of questions is to move. The point of the teaching is to be still. The point of the questions, as determined by the ego, is to move, is to create mischief, is to continue itself. Remember, the mind just wants to think. And it's the thinking that prevents realization. And the root of thinking, Bhagavan has told us, is great insight. Root of thinking is the ego, the I thought, ignorance. And not only has he identified the root problem, but he's given us a solution. A remedy by which we go back towards ourselves. Rejecting thought after thought. As your silence goes deeper, you'll be able to reject thought after thought. Thoughts will lose their power. I am the substratum. I am the basis. From the point of duality, I am the substratum. I am the basis. I am that which underlies name and form, objective appearances. I am the canvas on which everything is painted. I am the screen on which everything is projected. From the point of view of Maya, of duality. And when we let go of Maya, the appearances, and go towards the substratum that we are, that you are, that I am, then we discover there is no duality. There is no Maya. There is only the substratum. There is only that which you are. Love, light, consciousness, bliss, without any addition, without any opposite, without any objects, without any duality or multiplicity, without any body, without any mind, without any thought. Just love, just light, just bliss, just being. Come back home. I want you to come back home. I am asking you to come back home. When I say I am wanting, is you are wanting, really. You are wanting to come back home. I suggest to you. I assume this is true. This is why you are here. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this is my suspicion. You want to come back home. You don't want to anymore engage with duality, with the mind, with its questions, with its confusions, with its apparent good ideas, bright ideas, clever concepts that ultimately are empty, take you nowhere. Again, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but I assume you want to come back home, rest, be happy. So rest, come home, be happy. Not as the body-mind, but as the truth that you actually are, the spirit you are. Infinite spirit, divine being that you are. Come home, come home. So all questions are born out of ignorance, confusion. In reality, there is no ignorance. There's no confusion. No need for any questions. No need for any answers. Questions and answers are both ignorance. Why leave your warm, comfortable home and go outside into the cold, shiver, and then say, how do I keep myself warm? Why leave your warm home, go out, venture out in the cold, and then say, I feel really cold. How do I feel warm again? Where are my clothes? Why am I feeling so cold? If you are home and warm, best thing to do is stay home. If you're cold, rather than ask questions, how do I get warm? Where do I get some thicker clothes from? Instead of these, just go home. Of course, there's a legitimate question. If you're cold, how do I get home? And the answer is, be still. Be still. And when you are still, then who am I? I being the substratum. What I truly am. Go towards that. The subject. That's it. That's the only verbal teaching you need. Plus maybe a few auxiliary ones, like I said, about chanting it to discharge the energy and things like this. Your diet. And then once you be still, you'll get the deeper teachings. How do I do self-inquiry? I can't do self-inquiry. You'll be guided in silence. Come to satsang. Again and again, come to satsang. It's a great help. If your mind is very active, you can read the scriptures. But ultimately, all these things are outside of you. Of course, you can ask questions. Of course, you can ask questions. But without being still, the questions are endless. The confusion keeps on coming back. Confusion keeps on rising. Clarity, confusion, clarity, confusion, clarity, confusion. This is the way of the mind. It's like the waves on the ocean. Remember, the entire movement between clarity of mind, confusion of mind, is confusion, is suffering. Both the clarity of mind and the confusion of mind, both of these are ignorance. This is why Bhagavan says both knowledge and ignorance are ignorance, meaning knowledge in the mind, ignorance in the mind, ignorance, mind. The self is beyond this relative confusion and clarity, knowledge and ignorance. That is the true knowledge, the true wisdom. So be still. Remember, the mind can appear to be, pretend to be very helpful to you. Oh, I'm so helpful. I'm the mind. I'm here to help you. The thinking is going outside of the home. As soon as you start thinking, you're going outside the home. You're venturing into the cold. As soon as you let go of thinking, you're coming back home. Of course, when the mind first hears this, it doesn't like that. What does it do? It starts thinking, starts churning out thoughts. Oh, that's not right. Comes up with all the problems. This is when we need the verbal teaching, maybe. If you don't have sufficient faith in Bhagavan's words, which is fine, of course, if that's the case. If you read the teachings, the recommended teachings, and you don't have enough faith in them, then we might need to answer some questions on the level of the mind. But early so we can become still. If we can reject the mind at the beginning, if we have the faith or the insight, the realization to reject the mind at the beginning is much better. To not allow it to take grasp, to pretend it is you, when it's got nothing to do with you. It's a fiction. And I'm going to use a strong word, but it's a traitor. The mind is a traitor. It leads you astray. It's that ultimate bad influence. It's treacherous. And like all good traitors, they appear to be your friend. This traitor pretends to be you. Or pretends to be a very helpful tool to guide you. So instead of attending to the mind, be like Arunachala. Be like Guru Arunachala. Be still, motionless, rock-like, firm. Means come home, be love, be light, be consciousness, be spirit. Don't look at multiplicity, but be yourself. Be one. Discover what you are. Be that. Turn your mind inwards slowly, intuitively. With Bhagavan's grace, it will all happen. Have faith in him. Have faith in yourself, which is Bhagavan. Bhagavan means beloved, means God, means the divine, the truth, the reality, the supreme, the only teacher we need, the only teacher we have. ourself. Bhagavan Ramana. O Sri Ramana, bestow your grace upon me, so that I may, in experience, flawlessly attain the unequaled and unsurpassed essence of the practice, sadhana, which means practice, of self-knowledge, the excellent path, who am I, which you have discovered to be the central and foremost among all the various paths. O Sri Ramana, the heart, who through your grace protects me at every moment. Every moment your grace protects me by guiding me along the correct path. You guide me along the correct path constantly, ceaselessly you are guiding me. Rise from within, teach me. I don't need any outward teacher when I have you. Rise from within, teach me the true import of your divine and unequaled teachings. Unequaled because you are the self and you take me to the self, which is unequaled, so that I may know them in their undefiled, pristine purity. Undefiled by duality, by objective appearance, by illusion, by ignorance. May there be peace. May there be peace. May there be peace. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.